Ricardo Mujina,
Present.
Vice Mayor Candida Blanca,
Yes.
Commissioner Juan Blanes,
Present.
Commissioner Rhonda Rodriguez,
Present.
Luciano Suarez, Commissioner.
Yes.
Present. And on the commission part, we have a quorum. Nominees for the Charter Review Board, Antonia Chavez,
Present.
Eugenio Gonzalez,
Present.
Natalie Milian,
Present.
Ralph Orrell, and Joe Pass were excused. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item
Item
is
four.
the item 3.
Item 3. I'm sorry, you're right.
It's the swearing in of the members, the nominees for the Charter Review Board, and present Antonia Chavez, Eugenio Gonzalez, and Natalie Milian. So what did you suggest? Thank you. Okay, let's stand here, please, and let's swear everybody in at the same time.
Dale, Wen.
Let me
Mr.
get the
Gonzalez.
camera. Juan, can you get the camera so we can take the swearing in of the members? A picture?
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry, Pena. She pointed this way, which one? No, Q has the camera.
I'm shaking.
Yeah.
Let's proceed. Please repeat after me. Raise your right hand. I, Gonzalez, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States of America and of the state of Florida, that I will in all respects observe the provision of the Charter and the ordinances of the city of West Miami, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Charter Review Board member of the city of West Miami. Congratulations. Congratulations. Sign right now.
Parece como una amiga mía.
So you can sign.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
And I gotta kick the attorney out of here for a second. Mr. Attorney, can we get this so they don't have to bend down? I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
that works.
And that way, we have the.
Okay, so let's do Natalie first.
So when
Can I have your, thank you. A ver, Natalie. Here, you sign both. Oh.
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 The cameraman is not ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me sign. Mr. Attorney. That was an procedure. So this is your copy. Thank you. You should, go. So we'll do now Antonia Chavez. Ladies first, always. Always. Thank you. This is your copy. This is for your year. Señor González.
Thank you.
Next item?
Next item is the citizen presentations. If anybody of the public wants to address the board? No presentations, Mr. Mayor.
Next item?
Item 5, this is new business. Under new business agenda items, item A, opening remarks by the mayor.
Thank you.
Accomplish that. Federico?
Well, first of all, welcome to the Charter Review Board. I thank you for your time. I know that we all have a busy schedule, and we do this on a voluntary basis, and I really appreciate your service and to come and take the time to review something that is very important to the city of West Miami. With that, due to the fact that we have a couple of members absent today, I will suggest to the city attorney to keep it brief in the sense of perhaps introduction. I know you have a long agenda, but also we have another meeting at 7:30. So, and like I said, since there's a few members that are not here present today, probably perhaps keep it to the introduction and what do you expect of the Planning and Zoning Board. And with that, I give the floor to the city attorney.
Not Planning and Zoning Board, Charter Review Board.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I respectfully suggest that at some point we appoint alternates to the.
Yes, actually, in the agenda for tonight's meeting, we have that.
Okay.
That item.
I'll be very brief. 7 years ago. Anyway, why are we here? Pursuant to Section 7.06 Charter Review Board, it reads verbatim, the city charter shall be reviewed. That means that you have to review every 4 years to determine if amendments, in other words, you don't necessarily have to do anything, except that if you find that amendments or revision to the charter shall be submitted to the electors of the city of West Miami as provided by Section 5. It reads 5.03, but that's a typographical error. It's 5.03 of the Metropolitan Miami-Dade County Charter. And it says, it shall be the duty of the Charter Review Board to hold public meetings to determine today or tomorrow, whenever you want, whether revisions or amendments of the city charter are desirable or necessary, and if so, so determined. In other words, it is a duty for you, for the city commission, to convoke the Charter Review Board every 4 years. However, that does not mean necessarily that you must amend the charter. That's up to you after being revised. And this is why I suggested to the city clerk to share with you copies of the city charter and to ask you to review it prior to tonight's meeting and see whether or not you have or you might have some sort of suggestions as to what sections we should change or not change. I'm going to tell you personally that I think that this charter is very old. There's things that we have attempted in the past to have the general public, the electors to the city of West Miami, to change the charter at some points, and sometimes they have agreed and sometimes they have disagreed with us. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what inconsistencies you may find within the existing charter, and you'll see why I think that it should be at some point at least addressed. If I may, a minute. When we talk about the duties of the mayor, for instance,
What section?
What page?
3.08?
Page. Page.
Oh, page 9.
You see in 3.8,
Yeah.
mayor and vice mayor, it says the mayor shall preside at meetings of the council, shall be recognized as the head of the city government for all ceremonial purposes by the governor for the purpose of military law, for service of process, execution of contracts. Specifically says execution of contracts. That would be within the realm of the responsibility of the mayor. Now, 4 years ago, we submitted to the electorate precisely in Charter Amendment number 4, I don't know whether you have that or not, but it says, at our suggestion, shall Article 3, Section 3.08, first sentence be amended to read, to repeal that the mayor execute contracts and deeds, and these are the duty of the city manager.
These are
This was defeated by the electorate.
the results of last charter.
If you go out to the duties
2013.
of the city manager, section 4.04, powers and duty of the city manager, parent little lie, it says, the duties of the city manager shall sign contracts on behalf of the city pursuant to provisions or appropriation. And I asked, which one is it? Now, on the first hand, in 3.08, it said that it shall be the duty of the mayor to sign contracts. And here, 4.08, it says it shall be the duty of the city manager to sign contracts. So discrepancies like this, I can find throughout the entire charter. However, again, we have, this is, I think, on my fourth,
4.08, I don't have that.
4.05, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, city clerk,
I'm sorry,
4.05,
I'm sorry.
city clerk.
4.04,
Oh, okay, thank you.
powers and duties of the city
clerk.
manager.
Okay.
Now we are
Little lie.
4.04.
City manager.
Okay.
So, we
Okay.
already, page
What I'm
10,
trying to point out-
404.
What I'm trying to point out is that there are discrepancies within the charter that we have attempted to correct by taking this to the electorate, and they had rejected the issue. Now, I requested the clerk to ask of you to review the charter and bring about, and I think that today would be an excellent time to draft an agenda for the rest of the proceedings. Which articles or which sections would you care to consider to review or not to review? Or if you, by consensus, decide, by your majority rule, decide that there's no need to amend the charter. So the floor is yours.
You mean page 10, 404,
04.
Little lie.
item I, that says city manager sign contract on behalf of the city pursuant to the provisions of the appropriation and ordinances.
And if we go to 3.08, it says that it is the duty of the mayor.
Well,
I
last
say-
time,
3.08.
last time we tried to change that the mayor was not responsible and the people vote no.
That's right.
So this time they just get that the city manager is not responsible. Say what they said. Because one of them, 4 years ago, they said no
Correct,
to our question.
correct.
So do you like this year to propose, take off that responsibility from the manager?
It should now be the responsibility of the manager then, because it was
Because-
negated by the charter review vote.
Can I, okay. Obviously, this is very simple. Throughout the years, I mean, at one time, the city had a strong mayor. At this time, we don't have a strong mayor. So the discrepancy lies on that. When you have a strong mayor, it is the duty of the mayor to sign, and this is very typical throughout, because the mayor acts as a manager, as a city manager as well. And in this case, that discrepancy stayed in the books, or it stayed in the charter. And perhaps when this went out to vote, it was not explained clearly. As you know, we were charged by how many lines, and I remember debating how many lines we can put in here. And then we put as little as possible. So as little as possible, well, that's not a lot of information, and for people to, and you know, if people don't get educated and they don't know the history and they don't know the reason, and I mean, that's how I perceive it.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to chime in and echo what you have just stated. Shortly after I came on board and accepted a position with the city, the charter was being revised to contemplate the changes made by the referendum and the passage of going from a strong mayor to a council manager form of government. And so some sections of the charter were in direct conflict with what the referendum results. And that goes hand in hand with what you have explained. I think the intent back then, and it doesn't matter, it's up to the people at the end of the day, or to the board to decide, and I respect that. But I think the intent was to have the manager execute all contracts and agreements, obviously with approvals, because that requires an approval process from the commission, but basically the manager, since it was a full-time position created for a manager, and the mayor was no longer a strong mayor, was actually should have been the manager's responsibility. And obviously that's history, that's all.
Nevertheless, the manager never does this thing on a vacuum. Every single item comes to the commission, and
Always.
for ratification, or you know, even discussion, and and once we vote on it, if we vote no on it, the manager doesn't sign
I
the
can,
contract. So
absolutely.
she has no power to sign.
So,
So the checks and balances are fine, it's just the wording is discrepancy.
well, let me raise a question. You like, or you think we repeat the same question, adding once the actual mayor is not a strong mayor?
Could be.
Repeat the
reword-
same question, clarifying the actual mayor is not a strong mayor. Actually, the mayor is not a strong mayor. Something like that clarifies the position.
I think that that's an excellent suggestion, Commissioner. Even though it was repealed by the electorate 4 years ago,
Yeah, but now we put that.
you could put it back and explain that it's inconsistent one with the other.
Adding that once that the actual mayor, the actual mayor position is not a strong mayor. This is a manager administration. Something like that clarify and separate why we repeat the same question.
Correct.
We clarify that he's not a strong mayor, this is a city manager administration, manager administration. And maybe that clarify for the voters, because the voters would see the same question. If we add some kind of explanation.
They won't even remember.
Was that again? Okay.
If that is a suggestion, I would recommend that you put as a motion and be second and voted.
Motion
Okay.
to make it a lot clearer so that the electors can understand.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
At some point, I will draft the actual language, and I will bring it to you for your approval, your suggestions, your amendments, or whatever.
Just make it as clear as possible.
Okay? That's what we tried to do last time.
Let's go even clearer.
I have another comment, but I would suggest that you hear my comment, but do not act right now, because I want to suggest to start from the beginning and going back and going out to the end. But I'm going to make a suggestion, okay? Now, in our 4 years ago, in Charter Amendment number 6 that was voted down, in other words, was voted against, Section 8.01, don't go to it, just let me brief you. 8.06, 8.07, and 8.08 adopted in 1949, okay? As well as provision adopted in 1978 and 1980 are in conflict with the rest of the charter to be repealed on submission the following language. All prior charter amendments inconsistent with the present charter amendment to be deleted, approved, and the voters voted no. This is another issue that I suggest that whatever was done in 1949 is inconsistent with today. So I think that you should vote it down. But anyway, that will be at some point when we get to that. I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, that you conduct a meeting and bring it out to the attention of the commission. Those portion of the charter, whether or not you want to read it, all of it, or you want to go directly to those points that you want to change.
I mean, if this is something that it makes sense. I mean, we can open it for discussions, but this is an item that was discussed before. It makes sense, but like you said, you just want us to think about it, and I think we should discuss it next time.
I
Put a
will.
motion and
I will bring it back to you.
okay.
Okay? But for instance, if you want to read it one by one, number one is 1.01 creation and powers. That should not be altered or changed. I think that we should pass that. Number 1.02 construction. The powers of the city shall be construed liberally, except as if limited by the Constitution. I think that you should leave it like that. Description of corporate limits. I dare say that I don't know that there's anybody here that would know how to read this. Believe it or not, in legal descriptions, you don't begin at the beginning. You begin at the end. In other words, you should start by reading the northwest corner of section 12, township 54 south, etc. So I'm not going to go into that because that would be ludicrous, because I don't know that I understand it, okay?
Mr. Attorney,
Yes, sir.
why don't you bring for the next meeting, in the general home rule powers of the municipality, Florida statute 166.021?
I do have it, sir.
I think if we give that home rule to all of us, we clarify for us
Okay.
too many things.
What page?
No, it's not here.
I have it, and
It's not
if
here. I
you
mean,
want
you
to,
bring
we
the
can
next
make
time.
copies of that tonight,
The home
So you
rule
can-
of powers.
so you can take it home.
Well, you have one for each?
I'm sorry?
Can make it-
You have one for each?
I don't have one for each. I
That's
just
why
want
I
mine.
question next time you bring it.
Okay, okay.
You want to give me that, I accept it, but
Tonight,
to everybody.
before I leave, I will make copy, I will have the clerk assist
yeah,
me making
good
copies
idea.
and give it to you, okay?
So we know, update the home rule.
Now, after we go to the legal description, we go to the city commission powers and composition. Merely says that all legislative is making laws. It's not administrative. Administrative and legislative is totally different. All legislative matters shall be the purview of the city commission. Nobody else can make laws except the city commission. Now, it reads throughout the document, as I have it, councilman. That will be at some point altered by interlineation. I will get with the clerk to check out with Municode and have it changed, because at one point you all were considered council people instead of commissioners, okay? But throughout the document, if you check out Municode, this is the way you come down. Unless, although it says
City Commission, powers and.
whenever there appears in the city charter reference or designation of city council, councilman, Such reference or designation shall be commissioner or commissioners.
But I think the last time we did it, we
That
changed to
was
commissioners.
codified, that's right.
Yes, it was clarified, but unfortunately, we depend on the Muni code in order for them to change it. So I
Yeah,
will
that-
get with the clerk and see whether that can be
That's their
changed.
mistake.
And does not have to go to an election, okay? The city clerk shall act as supervisor of elections. That was passed on last time that we had a charter review election. And in addition, there was ample discussion whether or not an elector should have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years. So it was determined by the electorate, by you first, and then the electorate, that you have to be a resident of the city for 2 years preceding the qualification date of the election, of any election. Now, let me caution you on one issue, because years and years ago, we had a person that allegedly did not live in the city, or lived in the city. He said that he was living in a home that had no electricity or no water. His license was someplace else, and this was taken to court by myself and another lawyer, and the court determined on case law that resident is actually what you have in your mind. If you think that you want to be a resident living in a sidewalk, you're a resident of the city of West Miami pursuant to that case law. Now, I disagree with that, and I think that eventually, someday, somehow, some court will turn that down, because that's not logical to me. Now, elections in separate groups. First of all, it talks about the mayor. The mayor, of course, might have himself as a candidate, himself and somebody else as a candidate, and whoever gets the majority of the votes shall be elected mayor. And we had the pleasure of having seen you all going out to elections and being elected. And in this case, for only 2 years. Now, the issue is whether or not you want to change the 2 years term for the mayor. Whether you want, as most of the cities and counties throughout the state, 4 years, and you want to take it to electorate, or 2 years at a state right here. It's up to you.
Didn't we have a lot of discussion about that the last time around?
We did.
What was the outcome?
The outcome was that it was determined that it was 2 years.
And there was a reasoning why, I'm not sure why, but
You want the reasoning? I'll tell you why.
refresh my memory.
It was, we had very bad governance at the point in time that an individual was occupying the office of mayor, and it was determined by the group that if a person that did not have the right intentions in mind held the office for longer than 2 years, they could undo all the good that a previous mayor or a future mayor can bring to the table. However, there is some logic behind taking the office of the mayor, and now that our city is stable and it's in the hands of obviously good leaders, something food for thought for you all to entertain. I mean, that's just, I'm giving you a little bit of history, and
That was the reason was very simple, Commissioner, don't read your mind.
bad time.
If you put 2 years, the mayor will try to make an effort to do a good job. Because every 2 years, he have to go for election. If a good it's a bad mayor
memory's
come,
not as good as
it's
yours,
for 4 years, we have to expect, to have a bad mayor for 4 years, and that load our shoulders. But now, every 2 years, the mayor have to know they have to do a good job. That's it. Simple. Very simple. That was the reason last time.
Sure, I argue one way or the other, but.
You can argue it one way or the other. So
I
will
know.
suggest.
I
will
just telling you
suggest
what
that
the
you-
reason. I just giving the reason
I
last
will
time.
suggest that you think about it, and we'll bring it back for discussion. We don't have to make a decision tonight.
Okay, will you note it down as one proposal?
Yes.
Okay? And this is what I wanted, for you all to think about proposals. You tell me what your proposal is, and we'll discuss it at some future point, okay?
Okay.
Now, we go out to the city commissioners now. The city commissioners go for 4 years or 2 years. It all depends on the number of votes that you get. Number one, when you get out to the election, and one of the things that I have been a part of is what happens when two candidates get the exact number of votes.
We flip a coin.
We flip the coin, and it's called
I agree with that.
Heads down.
elected
Tails you
by
lose.
lot.
Yes, yes,
Okay?
yes.
Determined by law.
It's here. I love it.
So it goes out on the same thing for the vice mayor, whether there's two candidates that get the highest marks, the highest number of votes, and they go out to see, and they get the same number of votes, we elected by lot. Okay?
Next.
Well, I'll be the devil's advocate. Let's look at the 2 year and the 4 year term for that as well. Listen, it's very simple. I truly believe that the 2 year term is short in any capacity because, you know, you get in for the first year and then you already have to think about election, and unfortunately elections have become more of a, you know, running and a business and collecting money, and you know, sometimes you lose the focus. That's my take on it. Whereas, I mean, this is a small city. I think also that will attract future generations to be mayors in the city of West Miami. That's what I believe. But again, I think the 4 years are more, not only for the mayor but also for the commission. I think is a better. It takes about a year, unless you're somebody that you've been in politics before, somebody that you have, you know, done work. And in this city, I mean, perhaps in the future we might have a different generation that comes in, but it takes a while to understand, you know, the running of the city. And then, contrary to what Madam Manager said, yes, we had an experience, and then we based on that experience that we had a bad mayor. But you got to think about this for a moment. You know, the mayor only has one vote. Unless he has a tremendous convincing power to turn everybody into bad commissioners, I mean, I don't see the point. You know, so I think, I mean, we have a good group over here now, and we're lucky. That doesn't mean anything, but you know, when we review the charter, we can think about people. We have to think about, you know, situation. We have to think about, you know, what works and what doesn't work for everybody. And I'm sure throughout the years, as the generation change, we're going to be tweaking, and that's why we do it every supposedly 4 years. So, and not only, I mean, I was going to say this at the end, but I'll tell you right now. I think another thing that we should do is, and we have done this in the past, you know, go ahead and read the charter, and make your suggestion if you want to discuss any item. And I will suggest that rather than coming to the meeting and bringing those items at the meeting, to be productive, I think you should do it ahead of time and forward your suggestion to the clerk, so that way, you know, also not only the clerk but the attorney can prepare for that meeting. Because otherwise, you know, if we bring it, you know, usually for those that you don't know, Mr. Villalobos, I call him Mr. Research, because he will research, and our clerk is the same. I don't know if she got it from the attorney or what, but it is important. You know, they always like to be very prepared to serve the best for the city, and they like to. They're not the type of people that shoot from the hip. So, and this we should not shoot from the hip. We should really look at it, analyze it, and the other thing that I'm going to suggest is, and I was going to say that in the opening statement, but I last time I felt like we kind of rushed through it, and we put these items on the ballot right away, you know, during election time. I think perhaps we should contemplate, we're gonna have elections in November, you know, 2018, so we should also contemplate on taking that. So that way we have a little more time to digest it. Like, for instance, here's a typical example of something that the contract, you know, who signs the contract, the mayor or the manager? There was not enough time to explain, because we didn't know it was gonna be in the ballot till the last minute, because we rushed through it. I mean, and it's not that we rushed through it, it's that we had little time. And things are gonna happen, you know. Like for instance, today was the first meeting, and we have a couple of members who couldn't come in. So that kind of delays the process. So anyway, I've been long-winded, that's all I wanted to say for now.
And I think after this, I think that not only this is very important for you to think about it, but it's something that will be consistent with the rest of the state of Florida. And if you want to, I can bring you research as to the major cities that have I'm not suggesting one way or the other, by the way, I don't care. I mean, that's entirely up to you. The mayor have been doing a good job with 2 years, so that will be up to him. Now, we don't have veto powers here. As the mayor stated, he's only one vote. You could adopt a veto power, which I would not suggest. I think that you're doing fine the way that you are, so I would not even think about it, okay? Now, the next item in my agenda is 3.04. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1949, you could live a month with $20, okay? One whole month for $20. Now, when I first came to the United States of America, I was working at Sears and Roebuck, and I sold gasoline at 19 cents a gallon, okay? Now, with $20, you barely have 3 gallons of gas. So this is something that have gone out to the public, to the electorate, and I think it's totally inconsistent with logic. I don't know that $20 would be sufficient for you people to attend. I understand that you don't come in here for money, that you come in here for dedication. But if you read further down 3.04, you will find out that the council that devotes so much time to the betterment of the city has no salary. And I don't think that is fair. I think that you should perhaps not take an issue tonight, but have it in your mind. Because I personally believe that this is something that you should be considered. Now, the $100 per month non-accountable expense account, as I say, if you have and you do whatever, you go from here to Fort Lauderdale, you will spend $100. I mean, you take the express line, it might cost you up to $20, okay? Now, last time we did bring this out to the electorate, and they voted it down. But it says, in the second paragraph, it says, the council shall, at regularly called meetings and by 4/5 affirmative vote, approve additional expenses for council members for travel and/or per diem expenses within the state of Florida, provided, however, that such travel per diem expenses are for direct benefit and/or indirect city business. To there, I'm in fully agreement. I personally agree to that. However, the second paragraph contradicts the first paragraph, okay? And it says, sentence, I'm sorry, instead of paragraph. It says, it is not the intent hereby to permit payment of expenses and/or per diem expenses for travel, for attendance at seminar. Now, how are you going to learn if you don't go to a seminar? Convention, 90% of the issues that the commissioners and the mayor can bring back to the city is through conventions and dinners and lobbying purposes. Now, you tell me that you don't go to Tallahassee and lobby on behalf of the city of West Miami? It's inconceivable for me that this sentence is here. Again, I will read, it is not the intent hereby to permit payment of expenses or no per diem expenses for travel, attendance of seminar, convention, dinners, and lobbying purpose, or for other uses. Expenses for travel per diem expenses shall be limited as provided with the statute of the state of Florida. Now, let me ask you this. What is the purpose of the first sentence if the second sentence says exactly the opposite? When you say, by forfeit approve additional expenses for the council to travel per diem expenses, what do you travel for? You travel to lobby for the city of West Miami. So again, I'm going to put the burden on you, okay? You live in this city. You are the mayor and commissioners of this city. You are the members appointed by the mayor and the commissioners live in this city. When you approve the final version, if there is a final version of the amendments, you should go out and lobby for it, which I don't think that it was done last time around. The people were not educated as to what it meant and simply voted yes or no, I guess, because I don't understand it. That one is exactly the opposite to the other in my view. So I just want to bring it out to you. You want to discuss it? It's up to you.
I think we should. Any inconsistency, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, I mean.
You want to discuss it now or think about it?
No,
Is there any legal provision anywhere that, I mean, this obviously looks like, we've spoken about this in the past, but I don't think we've discussed this. Isn't there any legal provision anywhere where if this is so self-evidently that it's a mistake,
Higher because I can
couldn't we, as I said, is there any legal recourse that we can have, or any past case where if it's an obvious mistake, because this actually looks like an obvious mistake,
Done in
an error,
1949.
a contradiction, an error. So
Done
isn't
in
there,
1949.
exactly, maybe they were drinking, right? These guys, you know, these guys formed this city so they can continue drinking, right? Because the county won't let them drink, so maybe they were drinking. God knows what they were doing, but obviously it looks like a mistake, an
Can I
error.
suggest something?
So my question to you is there any legal standing somewhere, any case law that we can, you know, use to just,
I would respectfully suggest that you eliminate the second sentence in that paragraph
so how do we do that?
by taking it out to approve it
Referendum.
and take it out to the electorate.
So the only way to do that is by,
Unfortunately,
even if it seems like it's an obvious error,
yes, sir.
Yeah, they're gonna vote no, because they're not gonna understand it.
Yeah,
They're not gonna
they're
understand.
gonna-
It's like you want to spend
unless
money.
you go door to door, you knock on the door, you explain to them, you know, and you sit there and you talk till you're blue, and then they say, what did you say? And then you gotta say it again.
That was the biggest difference in votes.
Good evening, Mayor.
Coño,
I
llegó
think I
la gente
recognize it.
fuerte.
Thank you.
Mayor, good morning.
Oye, pero te llegó muy temprano, my mayor.
Todavía,
Siempre.
Oye,
Tú
Oiga,
sabes que
me cogí,
siempre.
me cogiste.
No, aguántala ahí.
Buenas tardes.
No, me
¿Cómo
cogiste.
andas?
Bueno, señora.
Mayor,
fuera.
Edgar me dijo que lo disculpara, que
Ah,
estaba
no,
complicado.
No estamos todavía esperando, te estamos esperando hasta las 1:30.
No, pero tú sabes que el reloj mío anda
No,
por
pero
ahí.
la comisión de protocolo no está preparada todavía para tu presencia. Estábamos esperando para que sea una por favor, porque estamos esperando para esperarlo como debe ser.
By the
Con
way,
traje de gala y eso.
we had the pleasure of having Mayor Martel from City of Medley come in with his group ahead of time. So why don't we do the following? Why don't we try to wrap up on this meeting? Our next meeting will be at 7:30. So, and anything else that you want to add, Mr. Attorney?
No, I just want you to think about it, and next time that we reconvene, that you bring us your points of view as to what you think that the charter should be amended, where the charter should be amended. I want you to think about it, but specifically this issue, which I think it makes sense for each one of you to be some sort of ambassador for the city of West Miami.
Email the city clerk ahead of time, that way she has.
And the attorney
And the
And the
attorney.
attorney.
That
simultaneously.
way we can
Yes, ma'am.
have time
Mr.
to digest it.
Villalobos, is there a prohibition or would you recommend that the manager become involved with anything that may be of financial impact to any of the proposals? I have some thoughts on this section of the charter, which we have discussed, and Mayor, you and I discussed it as early as today, that, you know, it may have worked back in 1947, but it's unrealistic.
1949.
49.
I'm sorry, 1949, and it's unrealistic.
Loaf of bread was 5 cents.
2016. There you go. And so was a hamburger at Royal Castle.
5 cents.
So, what I'd like to ask you is if it is appropriate for the manager to engage in certain comments or recommendations, if you would, on sections that have a fiscal impact to the budget.
It is imperative, Madam Manager, that you intervene as far as the finances is concerned, because one of your duties pursuant to the charter is precisely the finances of the city of West Miami. So at some point, and this is a caveat, see, there will be no impact on the finances of the city of West Miami unless 4/5 of the council, of the commission, vote one way or the other. Assuming that somebody says, I want to do this on behalf of the city of West Miami. It has to come out to the board. And you can, at that time, of course, we need your input right now. But you at that time also can say, Mr. Commissioners, you cannot do this, or you should not do this. You cannot say you cannot.
Right, I
okay?
recommend that you don't do it.
Okay.
But
Because-
the 4/5 we has been using.
Yes.
Right.
We using 4/5.
So I think that for now, Mr. Mayor, I think that this is sufficient. We will talk about the rest of the charter review as we go along, and we'd like to welcome Mayor Martel. By the way, this is off the record. Are we finished, Mr. Mayor?
No, yeah, let's
Are we
finish,
picking a
let's
date?
finish.
The next date
Well,
tonight?
first of all, go to the order.
Do we pick the next date tonight?
Yes,
or-
we
should.
should pick the next charter review board meeting
Correct.
tonight.
Can we,
Suggestion?
can we be consistent with either the first or the second meeting?
To have it
of-
before the meetings?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be the first Wednesday or third Wednesday of the month.
Particularly the month of September, the 6th was canceled, so we have it on the 5th, the meeting,
Well, but
Madam Manager,
I suggest do the same thing we did today, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And
so
next commission meeting,
the 20th?
right?
The 20th of
September the
September
20th?
is your regular city
We
commission
have,
meeting?
we have 2 meetings in September, right?
Both of them are
Yes,
budget.
we have our, yes, on
Or
September
both the
5th,
budget?
September 5th, we have next meeting, and September 20th.
Both are budget.
Okay,
Tentative
but this is
and
a
final.
special meeting, so we are recommended the
The
20th.
20th,
The
okay,
20th.
all right.
At 6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock.
No problem with me.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, because the elections department, they have deadlines, and I have to contact them tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, and ask them, because I know the deadlines for the April elections, but general elections, November 6th, many cities piggyback from those elections, and the guidelines and the ballots get full, so I have to get in contact with them and get a response in terms of deadlines.
Okay.
Take them at 29.
Well, we don't have conflict for
No,
this
it's not
meeting with
meeting.
that.
I'm talking
For the
about-
meetings, right?
No, we are talking about the possibility of
Changing.
taking the charter questions not to the regular West Miami elections of April the 10th of 2018, but to the general elections of November 6th, 2018.
but
That's
we
what-
may do in April.
You can,
We
and
do it. We
obviously
have time for
you
that.
have-
We have
So
time
we
for
should do
elections.
it in April, in our elections.
The
The
mayor,
only thing is, I'm saying, is
Yes.
because of what happened last time, I just wanna make sure that we have ample time.
Yeah, but I
to-
think we
to-
have time, right?
yes,
We have time
We
for
have
it.
time.
Yeah, we have time.
Right now, we have time, we'll see
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
down the line.
Is there any difference in cost, which election we go with? Difference in
yes,
cost
if
to
we,
us?
if we piggyback from the county elections, it will cost less because of the fact that they conduct the elections. We don't have to do it like here, like we do
Well,
it.
I like that, I like that.
Yes, but anyways, we're gonna have our own elections on April 10.
Whatever
Anyways,
way
we,
it's less expensive.
We should put
And if I
in
may.
April. We will have anyway, April.
Can we do it twice?
And
If
then,
you do it in
Little fail.
November,
It's fine.
If they don't
we
get it
do
the
it
first
every
time,
4
we'll-
years.
Try again.
if you
Strike
decide
one,
to
strike
put
two.
questions on the ballot at the November special, general elections, 2018, any costs associated with that election, with those questions on the ballot, will be funded by next year's budget, because it would be 2018, 2019.
but
And for now, we have the money contemplated in the proposed budget to do,
For April.
April
April,
elections.
just don't go around April. Don't go around April.
We have time to.
I'll report
This
to
is,
you.
this is
Mr.
not a
Mayor.
monopoly.
It's already planned.
This is a, let
It's
the,
already planned.
let the city clerk do her finding,
Yeah.
make her phone calls, find out deadlines and
But
so on, so she can
she
come back.
already planned it for April, right?
Commissioner.
You already planned it for
Commissioner,
April.
Commissioner.
See,
But
yes,
there are other
Okay, let's take a vote.
possibilities.
because we're going to do, to take for the 6 more.
Let-
We don't need to
Mayor,
vote on
I'll
that
report to you
tonight.
at the
It's too soon
September
to vote on
20th.
that.
As sooner the better.
With the
It's too
deadline.
soon.
Okay.
Too soon to vote on that, Mr. Mayor.
Huh?
We don't need to vote on that tonight.
No, 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 no.
Oh.
On having
Oh,
the
okay,
clerk
yeah.
research it,
Okay.
yeah.
Just I'll contact the elections department, I'll report
Just
back.
report
on
back to us, okay?
September 20th.
Okay, both options. Anything else? Go to the order. Okay?
Motion to
Nothing?
adjourn.
Okay,
I have a question.
Motion to
Yes.
adjourn.
I know that the city sends out a newsletter. Are the residents being informed through the newsletter about this charter review task force?
Good question.
Because that would be interesting, and maybe putting a blurb in there about what charter review is and why we do it
Mhm.
could be to begin the education for the residents.
Great idea.
Maybe we can even explain
What
Great
it
idea.
is and why we do it
The
and why it's
process,
important
our
to be
amendments,
aware.
explain,
But-
there, we're not limited to amount of words.
Put it on the
Yes, not only
website.
me,
Newsletters,
The
we
the
can.
calendar
Put it on the
includes it on
website.
the
But
website.
Send a
I-
blast email.
I think I am the younger in this table.
You
And
are.
because I am the younger in this table, I'm going to give you an advice. This board is to review the charter. If you announce, and we have 60 people here, we are not to complete anything. This board have enough authority to do what they have to do. Because if you bring 60 or 70 people here, the people that they come from nowhere, and they have no idea what, the discussions are going to be until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to be excused 12 o'clock because I cannot be here all night. And I recommend you,
Limited to
this
the
board
discussion.
was elected or is suggested for that.
May
I think
may I
my
just
suggestion,
clarify, Natalie, these meetings are advertised, following all the requirements are posted on our city's website, it's posted outside City Hall, so we are
And they're on the
advertising. Yes,
website,
on the
on the
website,
calendar.
posted here at City Hall, everywhere, so if someone wants to really attend and is interested, they can come, although I think it's a great idea what you've suggested.
But I tell you what, if you make a board to review the charter, it's one thing. If you bring a circus, it's going to be another thing. I suggest keep the board, the charter review board, with enough authority and knowledge to these things, and then present to the voters in the election. And then, in the day of the elections, the voter will look and we judge. And we will have a
I might have
result.
understood a little different from what Natalie was saying, I'm just gonna piggyback and offer my suggestion. Once, because we're saying that the electors don't understand what we wanna do. So after we've chosen what we want to do, perhaps we can put out a newsletter and explain what the changes we want to make and why we're making them, not invite people to our meetings But once we've chosen the amendments we want
I
to make.
understood that.
we
If
can
you,
put it out ahead
I
of time,
understand,
so
invite
that
people
when they
to
go
the
to
meetings.
vote. No, we
Okay,
can't do
can
that?
we do the following? Hold your
Keep the
thoughts.
thoughts. Good
Hold-
idea.
Hold your thoughts till
Good
the
idea.
next meeting.
Done.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
Okay, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
One of the things that I wanted to say lastly was that, Mr. Mayor Martel,
If they answer yes,
I just want to let you know that the first time that my son ran for office, nobody visited. My son's district was Medley. Nobody wanted to visit Medley. My son was the only one that visited Medley. And we won exactly by the number of votes that Medley gave us.